I was going to jump, do a little ollie. But that wouldn't be about my entrance. That would be about my exit. Matter of fact, I'll just use the stairs. How many entrances do y'all make in an average day? Take about 30 seconds and think about that. How many entrances do you make in an average day? Go ahead and count them up. A lot. Looking for something a little more specific. Kind of got a number? Kind of? 50? Did you count getting in the car? Because that's an entrance. You get out of the car, that's an exit. Go into your house after you've been gone. So there's a bunch of entrances you do throughout the day. 50 is probably a good average number. I think the national average is about 35. Y'all are evidently more active. And that's okay. But as you enter something, it's really kind of mundane. I mean, most of your entrances are just there. You don't even think about them. You didn't think about any of your entrances today. I had to think about one, fall on my butt. But typically, we don't think about any of our entrances. Now, there's a few entrances in your life that are, they kind of stick in your brain. If you were a kid ever, and you were doing something stupid, and your parent entered, you remembered that entrance. Can any of my kids relate? You got a wall of Yah? Okay. So you remember those entrances. I can remember if my brother and I were wrestling. Yeah, they're all in the room. That was a mandate. If my brother and I were wrestling around and my dad would come in or actually it was my mom. She was more intimidating. She's not here. She's more intimidating than him. See, she's not here. I've got free reign today. If she would come to the door, I can remember she would come in the door and she would just stand there. God, anybody in Sunday school this morning? Y'all remember my wife walked in and entered and gave me that look? It all changed, didn't it? I mean, the dynamic, I moved. I mean, there are entrances that you remember, some of them. And then there are some that have fanfare. I mean, when the president comes into the congressional room or he comes into a meeting, wouldn't you like to be that guy that announces it? That at least has all that flair, and then they play the music and he walks in. I mean, if it was Roman times or even in Rome today where Catholicism is, they have the banners. I mean, I miss that. Nobody carries a banner when I get ready to preach. Nobody does that. I mean, they're like little incense flipping around. Maybe a trumpet? It's not going to happen, I know. But there's some with flair. It might happen, I don't know. Listen, it happens in my head every time, okay? It's all that matters. It's really all that matters. It's in my head. What about, y'all watch the show Gladiator? Russell Crowe comes through the gate, and you just see a silhouette, and there's this light, boom. And he walks in like that. How many of y'all watch the Grammys? Or, let's see, this is probably American Country, or American Idol. No, not that one. The Country Music Awards and that sort of thing. Y'all watch those shows? Yeah, and what's almost as important as the show itself? The red carpet, that's right. The entrances. What are you wearing tonight? How did you get here? Who are you with? It's the entrance. It's the glamour, the fair. It's not, it's good. Or if you grew up watching Seinfeld, the most notorious entrance ever, Everett Kramer. They built an entire show, really around nothing, but a lot about his entrances. It's an entrance. We remember some entrances. Today is about an entrance. That's what Palm Sunday is about, is an entrance. Jesus made an entrance. Now, he made an entrance into something that he had already made an entrance to many, many times and was really mundane. Even Jesus himself came into Jerusalem many times throughout his lifetime, but it was just an average day. He went to temple every day and was like going to church. And I know Jesus, the Son of God, going to church is a little bit different than you and I going. But it was still just average day. He and his disciples would make that entrance into Jerusalem, sometimes 3 times a day when they were in town. But today, Palm Sunday represents a day that was different, an entrance that was different. You see, there's all kinds of these entrances in your life, and then there was an entrance that was different. You made entrances, I hope, as a young kid going into church. You would enter into church, and it would just kind of be like, Mom made me go, and yeah. Or you entered into church because that's what you always did. You grew up doing that, yeah. But one day, Jesus got a hold of you. He entered into your life. And then all your other entrances changed. You came for a different reason. We talked about that about 6 months ago. You enter the building now because Christ is in your life, and it's a whole different ballgame. Something I'm trying to impute to my kids, that you go for a purpose. You go because you don't go because you want to, or because you have to. One day, you might look up here and no band shows up. They didn't want to. It's a concept I deal with, having teenagers, having a band full of teenagers. And if I've taught them only go because you want to, that can change. Their entrance has to be from the heart. And your entrance has to be from the heart. Jesus made this entrance for a particular purpose. You all know this story. You've grown up knowing this story. But there's a ton here. I mean, Jesus made this entrance deliberately at a specific time, in a specific way, for his time. And we can look at it and we can learn from it. But more importantly, we have to recognize, because of this entrance, recognize who Jesus is, who he is, and how we're supposed to respond to him. You see, today represents the last 6 days of Jesus' life. This is it. His whole ministry, 3 years or so, ministry-wise. And really his whole life, but his ministry culminates in what this week represents. Many religions call this Holy Week. Now, I don't think this week is any more important in our life if you're not going to treat it as such. I don't think you got to go through a whole bunch of more pomp and circumstance because of the week. I think you need to escalate your remembrance a little bit. You need to identify this week with the entrance that Jesus made into Jerusalem and the entrance that Jesus wants to make into your life. And we can use it as a launch pad for the rest of the year. See, I don't think Christmas is the beginning of the year. I don't think that's the culmination of our relationship. What Jesus is doing this week, that culminates next Sunday, is the beginning of our year, is the beginning of our walk with him. It's something that when something changes, it ought to be now, because he made an entrance on what represented by today that changed the world. He had purpose. He had a time. We'll look on, let's just look at this story. Luke chapter 19 starts in verse 28. We'll kind of go through it. After Jesus had said this, what did he say? Y'all know what he said? Somebody tell me what he said. You're following along. He would have said it in verse 27. Robert, they numbered it for us. Anybody? Anyone? Say it again. Ouch. And after he had said this, he went on, headed to Jerusalem, making this trek that Jews had made for 1,000 years. This was not a new trek. They were headed to Passover week. It was a week-long event. They were headed in. Gonna be a party. Jews like to throw down. They like to do it for 6 and 7 days at a time. Started today. Everybody was grouping up in Jerusalem. We saw a few weeks ago when we talked about worship that it wasn't all about godly stuff. They started to get partying. They started to get lazy. Remember? Right after this is getting ready to happen is when Jesus goes into the temple and he says, yo, y'all are screw-ups. You didn't sacrifice anything to get here to worship today. Let's change some things. And he turned over the tables. Remember, because they were selling all those things to people. Do you know what else today is called? Not just Palm Sunday. You know what it's called? And it would have been called that day? What? No, Passover is Friday. Thursday, Friday. Anybody know? It was called Lamb Selection Day. Lamb Selection Day. True. Because a Jewish family at the start of Holy Week celebrations had to select their lamb that they were going to baby and feed and name and pet and groom for the next 6 days, and then they were going to slit its throat. Pretty holy. But that's what today was about, really. That's why everybody was in the temple. You see, Jerusalem held about 50,000 people. And on this week, it held about 120,000 people, according to what Josephus recorded. About 120. So it didn't all happen inside the town. You just got to get a picture of what's going on here. It's like NASCAR infield coupled with Super Bowl with a tailgate party outside. So you've got RV spots, you've got tent camping, you've got the hippies and the porta potties. You got it all. You got our band over underneath a little 10 by 10, and they're having a good jam session, selling some t-shirts. And every now and then you get these little pockets that popped up, selling lambs. Best lambs in the land. No maintenance needed for the next week. Take it and then slit it. That's all they had to do. They were making it easy for the Jews. That's what ticked Jesus off. They were getting out of the sacrificial part of it. They were forgetting what they were there for. Lamb Selection Day. Bring your kids. I'll take the little one with the cute nose. And Dad would have to say, remember what's getting ready to happen to that thing. Why don't you pick an ugly one? But the point was they had to care for it, knowing what was going to happen. Jesus picked a very, very important day to enter. Lamb Selection Day. Because see, he's choosing to enter. And people are going to have to choose to select him. So it's a very important day. The direction is also very important. He's coming from the east. Let's read a little bit. Verse 29. As he approached Bethpage and Bethany at the hill called the Mount of Olives, he sent 2 of his disciples, saying to them, okay, we'll do one more. Go to the village ahead of you, and as you enter it, you'll find a colt tied there, which no one has ever ridden. Untie it and bring it here. Hold right there. Bethpage, Bethany. Y'all know who lived in Bethpage, Bethany? Lazarus. Good Bible scholars. Absolutely. That's where Lazarus. Just been probably a few months. Actually, some people say a few weeks. Lazarus was currently or previously dead. Yeah, absolutely. So he's showing up in John gives this account. that Jesus is going into Bethpage, Bethany, and everybody is kind of there. Everybody's hanging out in Bethpage, Bethany for two reasons. Because Jesus is near, that's one reason, and the other is because Lazarus used to be, and who wouldn't want to go see the previously dead guy? So Lazarus is actually getting popular. John tells us that when they show up, Lazarus is kicked back with his feet up on the table. Yeah, I'm the dead guy. What's up? I was there. Was dead. Not dead no more. It's because of him. That kind of thing going on in Bethpage. And it says it's doing it so much, he's getting so powerful, popular, that the Pharisees are like, gotta kill him again. Seriously. And a couple of Pharisees are like, well, listen, we've already seen this. It's not going to be any good. Can you imagine? The dead guy gets so popular that somebody wants to kill him. Leave it to the church people to come up with the stupid decisions. Because that's what they did. Got to stop this. Got to stop this. And then we got Jesus and Lazarus in the same town. The Bible tells us this is when the plot to kill him kind of started. But notice it says, just before that, it says that they're coming into Bethpage, Bethany, which is at the bottom of the Mount of Olives. So Jerusalem is on the other side of the Mount of Olives. You can't see it. They can't see it yet. Jesus is not in visual contact with Jerusalem yet. He's at the bottom of the Mount of Olives where Bethpage, Bethany is. And what he tells them to do is he says, go up to the next village, which is up the hill. Head on up there. When you get there, you're going to find a colt. And we've looked at the craziness of this story before. When I read it, I think of cop shows. You know, when the cop shows up and there's a high-speed chase and there's a woman sitting at the stoplight and the cop comes up and he flashes his badge and says, I'm taking your car. Kind of a Jedi moment for the disciples. That's what he does. The disciples just walk up to the guy and go, Lord needs it. It's like this code. And the guy's like, okay, take it. Just a weird little part of the story. Now, we know why he picked it, because you've all heard the story before. He picked a donkey. How many of y'all would have picked the donkey? I could have polled you before we started. If you could have been an animal, which one would you have been? How many of you would have picked an ass? Nobody. Nobody. That's right. And that's the same thing people are wondering now. Why did he pick donkey? Couple of reasons. Old Testament said he's going to arrive on a donkey. God picked it. You see, even for Jesus' life, God picked some outlandish things for us to do that other people will not ever understand. And the best thing you can do when you find someone doing something that you can't understand, that they say God has told them to do, is to shut up and back off. Right? I mean, if that had happened there, the whole thing would have fallen apart. And we know it wouldn't. We know it wouldn't. We've read the story. We know there's nothing could have happened to that. If that donkey hadn't, God would have just sent a donkey out of the wilderness. There's one. But in your life, think about it. The amount of times that the outlandish has happened around you, or you've watched somebody do something that you just, you know what, this is ridiculous. But they guarantee you it's a God thing. Just shut up and back off. Because God does weird things. He does crazy things. And he uses his people to do things that other people just aren't going to understand. That's one of them, right there. And it's what got Jesus into Jerusalem. We also know he had to pick a donkey because he was coming in peace. Okay, so let's go. We'll get up. Next one. If anyone asks you why are you untying it, there it is. I needs it. That last word always does that. The Lord needs it. Keep going. No, wait a minute. Back up. What if we separate the words at D and S? The Lord needs it. Get it? Anybody got it yet? Maybe the Greeks were stupid. Maybe he said, the Lord needs it. That's funny right there. I don't care who you are. Let's go. Verse 33. I cracked myself up on that one. But those who were sent ahead went and found it just like he told him. Just like he told them. How many of y'all show up and find out that God's told you to do something? You show up and it works out just like he said it would. And then you're out like going, oh my God, God is so big and strong. When God tells you it's going to be just like God said. Understand? You and I, if we would stop getting so freaking surprised over God a little bit, we could do more. But we trip over ourselves because God does stuff and then we're like, I cannot believe God took care of that. Oh my goodness. He said do it. He's going to take care of it. Verse 33. Corey's blend is strong today. As they were untying the coat. That's right. Why are you untying the coat? Keep going. Because the Lord needs it. Keep going. They brought it to Jesus, threw their cloaks on the coat, and put Jesus on it because he needed to sit. Verse 36. As he went along, people spread their cloaks on the road. Entrance is starting. Entrance is starting. Now, this is not just the 12 disciples, okay? Remember, he was at Bethpage, Bethany. Don't forget this. Sometimes we read the one part of the story, and then we read the next part of the story. It's a continual story. Bethpage, Bethany, John tells us, tons of people gathered following Lazarus around because Lazarus was the formerly, thank you, and Jesus is there, and Jesus is the one that raised the formerly dead guy, and so it's a really big, crowded place. Jesus leaves town on a donkey, which nobody understood why. So there's a big crowd. There's a big crowd. A lot of people are going up the Mount of Olives, leaving the village where they picked up the donkey, and they're now getting ready to crest the top, the Mount of Olives. Let's see what happens. When he came near the place where the road goes down the Mount of Olives, okay, so we're over the top, the whole crowd of disciples began joyfully to praise God in loud voices for all the miracles they had seen. Why? Why'd they do that? Jerusalem gets into view. Topping the top of the hill. Here's Jerusalem. Why are they so freaking excited now? Why? They going to what? Say it louder. They going to fight. Absolutely. They going to fight. Fight. He's coming in from the east. That's important. Why? They're at the top of the hill. They're looking down Jerusalem. Guess what's happening from the west today? Lamb Selection Day. What's happening from the west? Rome's coming. Rome's coming. Rome always came from the west because Rome was west of Jerusalem. Y'all are good and quick. But it's a cool contrast. Cool contrast because in the Old Testament, the Bible said the Lamb will come from the east. Absolutely. So Jesus had to come from the east. Mount of Olives was from the east of Jerusalem. Down the hill, looking out over Jerusalem, used to be, and today it's a little bit bigger, used to be Rome had built this tower system on both sides of Jerusalem. It held 600 soldiers. 600. It held 3 times that many on Lamb Selection Day, the start of the party. So as Jesus and the disciples are cresting the Mount of Olive Hill, they're looking down at Jerusalem, and they see the massive 120,000 people having their party, and the smoke's coming up from the barbecues and all that stuff going on. Over there, they can see it all the way across, is Rome marching towards them. Here they come. Here they come. We're going to fight. We're going to fight. Now, they weren't very bright. Because if Jesus was going to fight, he'd have been on a horse. A horse. A horse, of course. But he wasn't. So they're screaming, they're shouting, they're fighting. They're like, yeah, Jesus is going to overthrow all those people. All those people that are occupying the tower. I had the name of the tower I wrote. Mark Antony. Antony. Antonia. Antonia's Tower. I got it. Am I right? I could tell you it was something else. You're not going to go look it up. They had it built because of this march all the time. Do you know why Roman soldiers had armor? Huh? From a bunch of Jews with sticks? Really? They needed armor? Think about it. Have you studied? Do you know why? Seriously, you know why they had armor at this time? 1,200, 600, 1,200, 1,800 people marching down the road in armor. There it is. There it is. It made noise. That's why Romans invented armor. That's why they had it. It was shiny. It was polished. And from the Mount of Olives, you could look over there and you could hear it and you could see it, this shiny marching towards yours. They were intimidating. That's all Rome did to Jerusalem. They would intimidate them. They'd make sure they knew Rome was in power. And that's why they sent all these people at this part of the year, at Holy Week. Because the Jews would get together, and if the Romans weren't there occupying and making sure they knew they were in charge, then the Jews would get this big head. Hey, there's enough of us. I mean, if y'all would quit drinking, we could take them. I mean, put down the wine for a minute, and we can go after the Romans. Look at us. I mean, it was Bug's Life all over again. There's a lot of us. We can take them. Rome knew that, so Rome sent extras in armor, shiny. You got a good picture yet? Mount of Olives, Prius, Hummer. That's what it looked like. And they're yelling so much. Keep going. Let's look at verse 38. Because they're yelling so much. Blessed the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Lulu just told us. The kids just told us. That's what they were yelling. They were yelling Hosanna, which means blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven. Oh, yeah, I wasn't done reading. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest. Peace in heaven, but they're also yelling for peace on earth. Peace. We want this Roman garbage gone. We want peace. Keep going. Some of the Pharisees in the crowd said to Jesus, Teacher, rebuke your disciples. Why? They didn't believe in Jesus? Is that right? What are they scared of? Yeah, they wanted to save their own skin. Teacher, get it. Listen, let's make your entrance a little less known. Let's tone you down just a little bit. See, these are the same Pharisees who were down at Bethpage, Bethany, griping because Lazarus had been formerly, and the guy on the donkey is the one that brought him back to life. Even the Pharisees knew that this Jesus guy was getting ready to do something big. And it freaked them out. Cue, church people. When you get around things that start to freak you out, that really do draw attention to God, don't get freaked out. When you see God doing amazing things, but it freaks you out, don't freak out. Don't freak out. Anybody know what I mean? You sure? Positive? How many of y'all been freaked out and shouldn't have been freaked out? Some of you are lying. Seriously. It happens. We get comfortable. The Pharisees were comfortable. They liked it like it was. They represent you and I. The Pharisees are you. Okay, you understand that, right? The Pharisees weren't bad guys. You're not bad guys. But the Pharisees represent the church of today. It's an order. It's nice and shapely. There was no problems as long as they kept to themselves. But when it started to get weird, when Jesus started raising people from the dead and walking around on a donkey, headed into Jerusalem, making a lot of noise. The government was getting ready to take notice. The Pharisees knew what you need to know. The Pharisees knew what you need to know. If you will exalt Jesus to the level that he needs to be exalted in your life, the government will get scared. The government will change. Jerusalem was going to change. And the church knew it, and they tried to stop it. You see, I think our country is getting ready to change. I don't want them to change. I want us to change. And our country will change by very nature. We don't need, thank you, we need to be changed from in here. And we need to do it out there. And it will change. That church knew that. Do you know that? Because for some reason, we only exalt Jesus in here. We don't exalt him with our life. We exalt all kinds of other stuff with our life, but not him. That church knew if these people exalt Jesus too much more, things are going to get crazy. I believe they even knew who would win. I think they knew Jesus would win. But they were going to lose their position. It was all going to change the way they had been doing it. They would have probably been trampled because they were the ones in charge. They were the ones who were supposed to keep everybody in control. Jesus, keep your disciples quiet. Send them back to their prayer closets, would ya? Go back. Okay, we're good with Bethpage Bethany now. Go back there. Do something where nobody knows. Not here. Not here. Not in the epicenter. Not here. All right, let's see. What's next? I tell you, man, I wanted to get stoned. Any of my kids got a stone? Play on words. Big rock. You've seen pictures. Nah. Yeah, go get me a rock. What do you weigh, $120? Make it. Don't take two. I tell you, if they keep quiet, what's going to happen? The Stones, not the Rolling Stones. We have done their songs, though. The Stones will cry out. What's that mean? What's that mean? It means, get this, I'm going to give you a throwback. It means that if it's of God, you can't stop it. And if it's of man, it's going to fall on its face anyway. Jesus is making the claim this today, Lamb Selection Day, this entrance into Jerusalem is of God. This one ain't going to change. This is going just like God intended. Speaking of stone. Ask for a rock, and you get somebody has rock envy. Only you got that one. Only this. Okay, so if y'all shut up, so if y'all are quiet, creation will simply tell people about God. So you can clam up all you want. Do it. But this movement is so much of God that you'll never stop it. People will find out who Jesus is. And if need be, the rocks are going to tell them. Instead, us blockheads can do it. We can do it. We can be a part of it. We can cry out, "Blessed is he. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." He's the Lamb that was selected. You see, I need him. Let's go on. We'll do it one more. I'm about there, aren't I? How far did I go? That's all I gave you? I'm done? We gone. Really? I should not use my notes more often. Crap. Okay. Find Ephesians 2:8-9, would you? I told you we may do that. And then we're done. We are done. I was joking. When Jesus enters, here's your point. Here's your point. All that for the point. Jesus enters, and things change. And things change. For it is by grace you've been saved through faith, not from yourself. It is the gift of, thank you, not by works, so that no one can boast. God comes in, and he gives all this grace and changes you. Things change. Your situation changes a little bit. More importantly, your perspective on your situation changes, but change happens when God comes in. When God makes his entrance into your life. So I guess I need to ask, has God entered your life? And I questioned this of all of our members about 10 weeks ago. You know, you came to church, you're like, yeah, of course I know God. Of course I know him. He wouldn't do this. He would do this. He wouldn't do this. He would do this. And supposedly that made you know him. Has he came into your life? Has he entered into your life? And you know that because things change. Jesus enters and things change. If your life isn't changed, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Jesus didn't enter. You understand that Jesus, when he went into Jerusalem, Jerusalem was fine. To their perspective, they were worshiping God. They were meeting like they should. They were praying 3 times a day. They were buying their sacrifices, making it easy, forgetting about Jesus coming down the hill. Jesus has never, ever made an entrance into somebody's life, looked around and went, you really got to do nothing here. I mean, think about that. Think about that. How many of y'all ever moved into a new house and went, man, the last people did awesome? No. I've seen people move into houses and paint the walls one shade lighter. Oh, now this is perfect. Jesus takes even the littlest stuff and changes it. Changes it. It's all, the Bible says that it's all, every bit of it, every single stinking bit of your life is all new when he moves in. Every bit makes an entrance. That's why this day is so important, because it represents the entrance of Jesus into your life. Now, I'll tell you, I needed him to be the Lamb. I needed him to be on a donkey. I wanted him. Now, let's get this, because this is going to really impact you, and then we're going to pray and go home. I wanted him to ride a horse, and I wanted him to swing a sword, but I needed him to ride a donkey and be a lamb. I wanted him to come in on a lion. Now, that would have made a cool story, right? I mean, think about it for just a minute. Jesus is in on a lion. He's holding the mane of it. And can you see it? I mean, it would just make it so much cooler. That's what I wanted. That's what I want. But I needed him. I needed him to be a lamb riding on a donkey. So that's your challenge, especially this week as you go out and we're celebrating Holy Week and we're thinking of getting ready for Easter. What do you want? What do you want Jesus to do? Okay? And then what do we need Jesus to do? As you're looking out at the people you know, what do you want to happen? And then think about what needs to happen. They're going to be starkly different. Because as Jesus enters, things are different. Things change. So as we go out and look at our culture, look at the world. It's a big one out there. Think about what you want. And then recognize what needs to happen. What needs to happen. Because if you don't do it, creation will. Creation will. Stand with me. Tonight, we go to Health Park, and we are rocks. We just go and we cry out. We represent who Jesus is. And that's not a guilt thing. That's not anything. That's just letting you know what we do at Health Park. Some people don't understand why we go to Health Park. Well, we just go and be rocks. Because blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. That's why we go to Health Park. People there, they just need to get loved on. We're not going to go baptize anybody tonight. Probably not going to see any major conversions. God may be doing something, but that's not where we're going. We're just going to be rocks. Just love on people. That's what Health Park's all about. You want to ride with us? We leave here at 5:30. If you want to meet us over there, it's on Bass Road behind Health Park Hospital in Health Park Care Center. It's a long-term nursing facility. Most of the people that are there will not ever leave, ever, to do anything other than go to the hospital and die. That's their future. And we can be a little bit of their present just by going. Being rocks. Be rocks. Then the rest of the week, everything that's in your bulletin, I want you to be part of while you're in town, because while you're here, you are family. We have family fellowship meal Wednesday night at 5:30 in the back building, and then Bible study going deeper. You're supposed to be answering two questions this morning. Why did we pray when we got in here? And why are we getting ready to do it again? Be thinking about that. Why did we do it? And why are we getting ready to do it right now? Next Sunday may change, Ty, based on Wednesday. You may want to come. But let's pray together. And I'm just going to there you go. Is there any announcements I need to make? We've got all our Easter things for next week. Listen, we're having the first annual all-island breakfast next Sunday morning. Who's in town for Easter? Raise your hand. Really? Where are y'all going? We're having breakfast on our campus for the whole island. We're going to start it at 8 a.m. next Sunday. If you can help me on the campus, I need to see you Wednesday night after Bible study. If you're helping with cooking, Papa's already meeting with you. You don't need to worry about it. Separate deal. If you're helping me get people around the campus, that's Wednesday night meeting right after Bible study. You're meeting with Papa. If you're cooking, you know when. So that we need you. If you haven't been asked about helping me, come Wednesday night right after church. I'll tell you all about that. And we need everybody involved. You'll get to eat, promise, and then we need you involved. We're hoping about 300 islanders show up to have breakfast with us on Easter Sunday morning. Absolutely. It's going to be cool. And then we're having an Easter egg hunt at 10:30. You don't want to miss that. It's going to be cool. Right where we're doing our thing up here, they're going to be doing their thing all over the place. You're going to see them during the service. Fun, fun, fun. It's going to be good. An Easter to remember. That's our goal. Right? All right. I hope y'all have a blessed Holy Week, and I hope that God will impact your life and change you, and you will see Him in everything you do. Randy, pray for us, would you?